Hi, welcome to my blog. My name's Tom Chu, and today we're going to do a Photoshop tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to go over some of the basic things you need to know to get started working with Photoshop. Yes, I've showed you a lot of quick tips on how to go in and use the program in specific ways to do little tricks and tips, but no one's given you any foundational advice or foundational tools to work with when using Photoshop. So first of all, what is Photoshop and why do you want to use it? Photoshop is a single image editor. What it does, first of all, let's talk about back when maybe you were a kid. If you're anything like me, you probably had a whole bunches of photo albums and boxes of photos. I took photos of everything. My friends, people that weren't my friends anymore, and I made all kinds of collages. I used to take a photo and say that if there was somebody I didn't like anymore, I'd cut them out of the photo. Or if I had a pretty girl like this that I wanted to put on a card or something like that, I would cut it out and put a heart around it, and I'd make it a card, or I'd make a photo collage of a poster on a poster board of a whole bunch of people, and I'd give it away as gifts for families. Well, I love to play with photos, not just look at them. I like to create art with them. Well, that's what Photoshop does. It lets you play with your photos. It lets you create things with your photos. It doesn't just always fix problems. It lets you be creative. Yes, it can fix problems, and yes, it can edit it, and it can be a graphic designer, and it can do video, and it can do all these things, and it's evolved into, this wonderful, vast program that can be used by so many different creatives. But the core of Photoshop is to bring in a picture and let you play with it, just like I did when I was a kid. So, the first thing you need to know about Photoshop is how to bring in a photograph. So how do you bring in a photograph in Photoshop? It all starts here with the file. If you hold down File, you can click Open, and it will launch a box. So if you're in Windows, it's going to launch a Windows Explorer window, and if you're in a Mac, it's gonna, I think it's a file finder. I don't have a Mac. I've never owned a Mac other than like an Apple IIe when I was a kid, but that wasn't really a Mac, just an Apple. So I know the shortcuts for Mac, and I'll tell you what those are as I work, but here we are inside Windows. So if I want to open this image, since I clicked open, I'm in a Photoshop dialog, I can just double click the image. So let's open up, say, this image. Double click it, and it opens the image. So there's a lot other ways to work inside Photoshop without even having to leave the dialog. Well, let's show you one other way to get in images, and one is called In Bridge. I call it Big Bridge because I use Mini Bridge a lot. So Big Bridge is the same way. It lets you go through all of the places on your computer, and it lets you work with your images, and it gives you a lot more information, like metadata, when the file was created, what kind of features it was, and it also lets you open these in RAW converter. Okay, so if you wanted to open it in Camera Raw, you could do that, but the same thing as before, we just double click it and the image opens. Let's close that down. Another way to open images inside Photoshop is through Mini Bridge, and I find myself using this a lot more, so I don't have to go anywhere and search through my hard drive, and look, I can just find them right inside Bridge. So if I want to open a photo, there it is. It's that simple. I'll close this tab down to give me some room. And if I do want to open it up again, I just go in here, browse in Mini Bridge, and it opens it back up. Close it. So let's close this down. So now that you've learned how to bring a photo inside of Photoshop, now you need to learn how to do selections. A selection is a way of targeting a specific area of the image that you want to make an adjustment to. Say in this case we want to get rid of this finger, so we got to select around it. So I'm going to show you all the ways I know to select that finger. So let's zoom in. Maybe not zoom in so much. Let's just get it at 100. If you press on the space bar, it'll give you a hand tool, and you can move stuff around. And you'll learn these little shortcuts to work inside the interface fast. So one of the ways that you'll first learn to select something is with the rectangle marquee tool. All of these tools are called marquee, and if you hold down, if you see any in this toolbar, any of these areas with this little triangle, it means if you click on it, it will open up more options. So we have a rectangular and elliptical. These single rows, you can use them, but the ones you'll mainly use are here. Okay. So if we make our selection here, we can hit Control C to copy it and Control V, and it will put everything that we just selected and pasted, which is by Edit Copy, which is Control Z, and Edit Paste, which is Control V. Okay. Sometimes I just automatically go through the shortcuts because I work with this program so much that it's just instinctive. I'll try not to do that. So we'll delete that and get rid of that. One other thing I want to go into before we continue to manipulate this photo is you never want to work on your original. You need a safety net. Say you've done a whole bunch of changes and you just hate it. You don't want to be working on your original because you can't start over. And I'll show you what I mean. So say if we grab this brush tool and we're going to paint something, let's select, say, maybe a red color, and say we wanted to make the background red. Oh my goodness, we're in our hair. So let's get the eraser tool and get it off there, right? So let's get the eraser tool, let's make it a little bigger. So let's erase. Oh no, what's happening? It's erasing everything. Now I've ruined my image. Well, through the magic of Photoshop, we can hit Control Z to back up, and that edit menu is step backwards. Edit, step backwards, edit, step backwards, edit, step backwards, and now we're back. However, if we just give ourselves that safety net, because if you run out of undos, you're just done. If we right click on the background, we click duplicate layer, it gives us that working area that we can do whatever we want to this image, and we always have this as a safety net. You see that little lock? It's locked for a reason. It doesn't want you to manipulate that. It will let you paint on it and do stuff like that, but if you manipulate it too much, you're manipulating your original, you're setting yourself up for failure. So let's back to our selections. We can do the elliptical marquee, which is a circle marquee, and if you hold down the shift key, it will select it in a complete circle. It constrains it. It won't be an oval. So you make your selection. Well, it was an oval because I let go of that shift button first. You have to let go of the mouse first. So now we have a circle selection, and say if we wanted to select that, we hit Control C. I mean, you can do this. Control C is copy, and edit. Control V is paste. So now we have that circle selected and pasted. Okay, let's delete that. The next way you can make a selection is with the lasso tool. So say if we wanted to lasso this, whenever you have these marching ants, that means you've completed your selection. So if we just go like this, it's gonna select from the point we stopped to the point we began. So if you go like that, you don't have to paint all the way through. Or some of them you have to close the loop. So we made a selection there. So if we do this polygonal lasso, it means that if we go here, click point to point to point to point, now it's going to want us to close it. You see that little circle? That means we're at the end of our selection, and it's going to create our marching ants. Hit Control D to deselect, or edit deselect. So we'll come over here and we'll hit the magnetic lasso tool, and this will try to ride around this image because it's high contrast, or this thumb, and it'll create these points. But again, we have to go down and close that selection. See the circle? Now we've made our selection. And say if we're trying to cut somebody out of here, this might give us a quick way to rough it in. Okay, and we'll come over here and close our selection. It's not real intuitive, but we're just learning basic ways to do selections. We're going to hit Control D to deselect. When I said it was in the edit menu select, it's actually in deselect right here. Select and deselect and reselect if we wanted to reselect it. Deselect here, Control D. Okay, so the next way you can make a selection is with this magic wand tool. So if we want to select things of light color, we can select this background. If you hold the shift key down, you'll get a little arrow, a little plus sign that says we can shift more. We can select more areas. So if we want to select parts of this red dress, and if we hold down the Alt key, or I'm sorry, the Control key, yeah, that's what it was. It was the Control key, we can cut it out, or the Alt key, we can subtract. You see that little minus sign? We can deselect areas of the image that we don't want to have. If we're not getting a clean deselection, we can hit Control D to deselect. Next way we can work on this image is with the quick selection tool. We can come in and we can paint, and you see the plus sign in the middle, so we can kind of paint a selection. And if we get too far over, if we hit the Alt key, we'll get the minus symbol, and if we paint again, it will let us refine that selection. So if we need to add more, deselect our lips, for example. Okay, it's not real accurate selecting things this way, but it is a way to do a selection. If we want to come down here to select one of my favorite ways, hit Control D to deselect, and that's with the quick mask tool. It is designed to create a mask, however you can use it for selections. If we select the paintbrush tool, or you can hit B as in boy, we're going to set our these are called color chips. They're default at black and white. If you hit the D key, it sets them at default, which is black and white. And if you want to switch them, you click this little guy here, or you hit the X as in X-ray, the X key on your keyboard, and it will do that as well. So once we have our paintbrush selected, if we click on this little icon, we can also use the Q. Now when we paint, it's going to paint in red, and you can change that in the settings of what it, if it's a black overlay or whatever color it is, but red is always means mask. Okay, so we've painted on her face, and if we hit this icon again or hit the Q key, it's going to make a selection, and in this case it made a mask selection, and we'll talk about masks later on. But you can invert a selection. Let's just zoom out a little bit so we can see what's going on. Say it's selecting everything. I'll just show you what it's selecting. Control C, Control V, and you can see that it selected everything but her face. We wanted to select her face, so let's hit Control Z to back up. And so we need to invert this selection. If you hit Control Shift I, invert, or you can hit select invert. So it's Control Z to back up, select inverse. There you have it. So we've inverted our selection. We've only selected her face. We hit Control C, Control V. Now we have only her face selected. So there's about 20 ways to do the same thing inside Photoshop, and I just wanted to go over some of the basics. I know this video is running a little bit long, so I want to thank you all for visiting my blog today. One last thing before I go. I want to show you how the quick way to get rid of this finger besides the paintbrush tool. Okay, so if we just grab the paintbrush, oh, it's gone. Well, that's not cool. So let's come over here and grab our lasso tool, and let's just select this finger, and we're going to hit Edit, Fill, Content Aware Fill. Oh boy, we're on the wrong layer. It tried to select her face. Control Z, boy. I just blew that one, didn't I? Let's delete that layer, and let's go just to the background layer. It was on a white background, so it was trying to select something near it, and it happened to be her face. So we'll select that finger again, and we'll go here, Edit, Fill, and we're going to choose from this box Content Aware Fill. Click OK, and it's going to select everything around it. It's going to get rid of that finger for us. So again, I want to thank you all for visiting my blog today. My name's Tom Shue, and until next time, we'll see you soon.